In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found No Proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson, and welcome to episode 370. This week on the show, first, we take a trip out to the South Coast Botanic Garden here in the Los Angeles area, the site of Moment Factory's Astra Lumina, which is just the second of the famed Lumina Nightwalk series to be put up here in the United States after the installation of Astra Lumina at the Anarchista theme park in Gatlinburg, Tennessee a few weeks ago. We're going to get a chance to talk with Jonathan St-Onge and Thomas Pintal of Moment Factory, and Isabel Solano, Global Vice President of Live Experiences at Fever, who are presenting this edition of Astra Lumina with Moment Factory. Then we have a chat with Andy Barnes of the Immersive Experience Network in London about what this creative community-centered group has on tap for 2023, including their current fundraiser for their Immersive Huddle series there in the global capital of Immersive. All of that in a moment, but first, I want to draw your attention to our latest backer exclusive and give you a little preview of what's coming next week for everyone. Right now, No Pro backers have exclusive access to an auction of 3 tickets to unique Trapman O'Brien's much-lauded The Telelibrary. These tickets are always incredibly hard to come by. They get put up and they disappear instantaneously, and Unique is pledging 100% of the proceeds on these sales to us here at No Pro. Like I said, 3 tickets are up for auction right now through Tuesday at noon Pacific, and this set is available only to No Pro backers. The top 3 bids will each take home 1 ticket for shows that will take place in mid-January. Then, on Tuesday, when this auction closes, we'll be auctioning off an additional 2 tickets in a public auction. It's probably going to be a little stiffer competition for the public ones. We'll just put out there, if you know Telelibrary. And this one's out there for the Telelibrary fans, the people who want to be Telelibrary fans. As I record this, the top 3 bids for the backer auction are $70, $55, and $50. And we've got 4 more days to go. So if you've been dying to catch the Telelibrary, or you're desperate to go back and you're a No Pro backer, this is your best chance this weekend to score a ticket. Backers can also still score discounts to the Wild Party in Las Vegas and Rumble in the Jungle rematch in London. All of this can be found in the backer exclusive part of our Patreon feed. Speaking of the Patreon, we're up to 387 backers right now, just 13 shy of the 400 mark that we hope to hit by the end of the year. That's thanks to our latest backers, Alex Hilson, Michael Sauter, and our latest sustaining backer. Yeah, we got another one. One a week. If we keep doing that, we're set. Our latest sustaining backer, Ryan. We remain on the right side of the halfway mark of the $5,000 a month funding goal that we have to be fully sustainable. And every step forward we take is more time we get to build in 2023. So if you can, please jump in and back us at www.patreon.com/noproscenium. And if you already do, or times are tight like they are for me, take a moment to drop us a review on iTunes or in your podcatcher of choice and help spread the word, or spread the word on social media. It is ridiculous, but it really does help. And there's so many platforms to choose from these days. Of course, we're also on the lookout for more community partners who are up for working out special deals for our backers, just like Unique has, just like the folks at Rumble, at Rematch Live. I'm off notes now. You can tell when I go off notes. And for the folks at Majestic Rep, all of whom have come through. If you're interested in that, hit me up at noah@noproscenium.com for details. We love it. We love being able to give back to the backers this way. As always, big thanks to our sustaining backers, Samuel Mystery, Chris Woolman, Samantha Davison, Eric Shamlin, Elaine, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentes, Tom Leonetti McGuire, Wynn Thorne, Ryan, David Bassick, Richard Ayers, Lonnie Hanson, Sidney Guillory, and Jan Budman. we had like 100 sitting backers, this part of the show would take forever. But we'd also be able to do this forever. So mix and match. Okay. Gonna be a little music, and then gonna walk you through this tape I got at the Lumina Night Walk, and then we're gonna come back around and do the interview with Andy. So catch you in a moment. All right, so this next segment is going to be a little different from what we usually do. I've got 2 interviews I recorded in the field after experiencing Moment Factory's Astra Lumina here in LA. I first clocked onto Moment. All right, so this next segment is going to be a little different. I've got 2 interviews I recorded in the field after experiencing Moment Factory's Astra Lumina here in LA. Now, I first clocked onto Moment Factory when I saw video of their Kami Lumina experience in Japan, which was built in collaboration with the Ainu people there. Moment Factory has a practice of working with First Nations peoples on some of these signature experiences. And while Astra Lumina doesn't follow that path, it's a story about the birth of stars that reflects on our own individual place in the universe through 9 installations that reach into the sublime thanks to masterful blending of soundscapes, path-making, and visual spectacle. We do touch on that practice of working with First Nations peoples and more in this conversation with Jonathan St-Onge, who's the executive producer for Signature Experience at Moment Factory, and Thomas Pintal, who is the multimedia show director. To help you keep track, I've kept the part of the tape where Jonathan and Thomas identify themselves. And another hint, it's Thomas who takes first crack at an answer before they go back and forth. And Jonathan often identifies Thomas as well. So you'll be able to track who's talking to whom. Let's get into the tape.
Jonathan St-Onge. I'm an executive producer for Signature Experiences at Moment Factory.
I am Thomas Pintal, and I'm a multimedia director.
Moment Factory is known both for some large-scale public works that you do. A lot of people in LA might be familiar with the work you've done at the Tom Bradley terminal of all places, and it's spectacular there. The Lumina Nightwalk series. That's like something that's like direct to audiences and kind of puts you out there to the public and not just to sort of corporate folks or city institutional folks. How important is this work to you guys as a company or as artists?
But it's a good question actually. I think for us creators and for Moment Factory has always done creation that engage people together. It's collective experience. So even at LAX or here in the Lumina, we engage people in a collective experience through a walk in a forest at night, which is totally, I would say, unexpected. So I think it's just an extension of what we're doing. It's collective experience. We do it like outdoor, outside. We like the people to be collectively immersed in moments.
Do you have something?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think and Thomas gave a. Yeah, that's true. The engagement and doing something, like our motto is we do it in public. So for us, it's always important to do things where we're going to encourage gathering, where people are going to live moments together, where people are going to have emotions together. So for us, it's important in anything that we do. Now, permanent, large-scale installations like the one at LAX, your question was how different is it, or how does it, what did you say, like how important Lumina night walks are?
Well, I mean, both like, there's a little bit of like, how do you approach making this differently from making a permanent installation that's going to be running all the time, but also sort of like, what does it mean for the company to sort of have something like this where it's like, no, but this is ours? Like, because people might walk through LAX, they won't know that it's you guys unless they're nerds like us, right? But like, this is like, oh, these guys did this thing and everyone knows it.
Yeah, so those are like kind of our signature experiences. So it's really these type of experiences that we've developed over the years. It's a creation, Moment Factory's creation, inspiration, and ideas that we offer to the public. It's also the idea behind Lumina Night Walks are to create story worlds. So worlds. So to allow the public that comes to see specifically these night walks is to allow them to be immersed in a world and to be in there for 45 minutes to an hour and just live the moment. And for us, it's to how are we going to synchronize those little moments one after another, and allow people to be.
Yeah, and some all the night walks, the Luminas are kind of different. Some have more depth in the story, because often, like, I'm thinking of some Luminas we've done with First Nations, where we also share like a deep story, like culture elements. And here at Astra Lumina, we didn't want to go too deep in a story world. We wanted to be very simple, just to spark imagination, so that the people, as they walk through the different like experience, they can build their own story and have their own interpretation of what what they're looking at.
I've always been fascinated that you guys have done these walks in about First Nations or in collaboration with First Nations folks. Is there's one running right now that's like that, if memory serves?
There's one in Quebec, with La Nation Huron in Quebec City, Onoa. There's one in Japan, in a very deep, very far away in the north of Japan. What's the name of this one again? It's
Inu
Nation. Yeah. So it's a long process. It's a long process. It's we take the story. We take time to build it. It's really a collaboration, and all the multimedia feature we're gonna use, they need to serve also the purpose of telling the story. So it's a longer process, I would say, longer production process. Yeah.
And those tend to stick around a little bit because they're. I imagine they're very site specific because you're telling the story of a people or helping them tell their story in this format on their land. Right?
Yeah, but actually there's jump in, Joe, if you want. But often we think there's some signature Lumina. A signature Lumina, it engages us into a deeper creation. So, and we go and we scout the land. We build upon the feature of the land also. Lumina, it's sometimes the effect. We will build it in relation of, okay, we've seen there's a beautiful rocks over there and there's a way to turn in a path and there's a sense of arrival and then, okay, we do this. And then sometimes it just comes when we're there working with the people. So this is a signature. We take a lot of time to build upon the land and based on the culture. The difference here in Astra, what is very interesting, it's the installation already exists, they are designed. And then we look and scout the forest and the garden here and look at where this installation should go. Because there's, beautiful palm trees, there's a figuier, there's a turn in a path, and then let's put the installation there. So we arrive with something that is already designed, but then we choose where to go, where to put it, where to deploy it, so that it has its own existence here.
Do you feel like you wind up in conversation with the new space and that you might even learn more?
Always. It's the same installation. We have an Astra Lumina in Tennessee, Gatlinburg, in the Great Smoky Mountains. And the same installation that exists there, here, is totally different because of the trees, because of the feeling of the land. So it's very interesting to see those installations existing in different places, but telling something different, because the relation with the nature around, the trees and the essences are very different.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have done the work, of course, at home. You've done it in Japan. I think there's been one in Korea. There's some other spots around.
Yeah, we did. So we have one in China, Singapore, Japan, France, Canada, and now USA.
What?
And France. Did I say France? Did I forget France?
You forget
so
France.
I forgot France.
You didn't forget. You said France.
No, I did.
What? So like what? So, what took so long to get to the United States? What was hard? Was it hard to get here?
Oh my
Did you not
God!
wanna come here?
No. It's been a long time that we want to come here to the States. Really, what happened is like we launched our first night walk in 2014. Then the other ones after came in 2016, and since then we've been answering a large demand. You know, in 2016, 17, 19. 18, 19, we scaled the formats in many different countries, and then the pandemic hit. So it's just that the timing wasn't there, and we were a victim of victim. I'm just kidding, but we're victim
we
of
all
the
were.
victim of the of the pandemic, but also previous to that of our success. So we just answered the demand. And then during pandemic, actually, we said like, okay, now we need to. There's a great country just right down south from where we are, really close by. We have not done anything, so let's try to do something like in the near future. And this is how the opportunity of building Astra Lumina came, and we're so happy of being here today. And and hopefully, because you know what, it's funny, like. I think the country, United States, there's all kinds of nature. You know, you can be up north and you can have a like big winter, and then you can be down south and you have like the desert in the Nevada or close to here, LA. You have like humongous trees and some West Coast forests. I think there's all the kind of the natures are found in this country. So hopefully it's just the beginning of what we can do here, but because we see great inspiration. And just to surf on what Thomas was saying, what we try to do is to put into value what's already there. You know, we're not trying to showcase a technology. We're not trying to showcase some images. We're really trying to put into value the natural beauty of a site. And this is why, as Thomas was saying, like as much as this show, Astra Lumina that we've done in Tennessee looks amazing in its environment, when we're here, it's also amazing, but it's two different. It's really two different shows, and it was wonderful to see it for me tonight. Is that this same design can be expressed in different ways if you're able to integrate it carefully in its environment. And maybe this comes back to your initial question of like how dear this is for us, and for us it's all into that delicateness of being able to put into value what's already there.
Fantastic. You want to add anything? Or?
No, that's beautiful. I'm very inspired. I want to do more. Let's do more.
Well, I'm so glad. I've been admiring your work from afar for a long time. So this was a real joy to be able to actually experience it tonight. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Also on hand that night at the South Coast Botanic Garden was Isabel Solano, Global Vice President of Live Experiences at Fever. So Solano is usually based in Madrid, but she's been here in LA for the past 2 months as Fever has been opening up more and more experiences here in the LA market. First, from Stranger Things to the AC Doocy Club, and now this one. Here's our quick conversation. Fever is really known for, working with folks who have big IP, working with like Netflix, doing, co-branding stuff on Stranger Things. You got the Stranger Things experience here in town right now. This work with Moment Factory, this is like their original work. This is their baby. Why is Fever kind of working with folks like Moment Factory when you have these like big IP things like Stranger Things to do?
100%. So to that question, I think Fever's mission and vision is to empower creators to go farther, not all the creators, but best-in-class creators. We truly believe that Moment Factory are one of the best ones in the world for this type of experiences. That's why when we met each other, it was a perfect match. I think we both fell in love with each other. We knew that it was something that could really work between the two companies, this partnership, because on the one hand, Fever is bringing all their technology, expertise, data, etc., and Moment Factory is bringing their creativity, which is wonderful. I mean, you've seen it today. It's very unique, very special, and it was just a perfect match. So for us, it's a natural way of working. We like to co-produce with best in class.
What drew you to working in this space, working as the SVP of global live, like all this experiential stuff in particular? Like, is this something you were drawn to, or you sort of came from other entertainment space?
You mean my case?
Yeah.
Or like, no. So my background, I'm coming from Amazon. So prior to this, you mean that?
Yeah.
Prior to this, I wasn't working on this industry. But yeah, I joined the company 4 years and a half ago to launch this new business in which we are financially invested. And well, we started from scratch. We had 0 team members in the team, and now we're more than 200 people spread all around the world. So it's been quite a ride, quite a journey, and I've enjoyed every single day of it.
So much of marketing for this sort of work and gathering this work, it's been a really rough ride the past couple of years. We've had the pandemic. We've also had like just things like Astra Track has changed the game. So how do you keep up with all of these challenges while still expanding the portfolio? Because you guys have really expanded the portfolio this year.
So to that question, I would say that it's all about the team. I think I'm fully devoted to my team. I think it's the best thing I've done. It's hiring all this incredible group of wonderful people who are extremely talented, that come from different companies, different backgrounds. It's so diverse, but for real, we have people from everywhere. I know many companies, they say that they're diverse, but we're diverse for real. And I think it's all been because of them. Like, for example, in the pandemic, most of the companies were closing doors. And well, we were growing and growing every single day, doubling the business from month to month. So I'm not going to say it's been something easy, but I can truly say that it's been worth it. And here we are.
You guys operate around the world, as we all know. Your headquarters in Madrid, but active in New York, Miami, Chicago. Like, you turn over city, fever's there. You just came into LA. Is there something, not for the people outside of LA going like, no, I can do an LA question, but do you see a lot of potential here in this market?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, LA, it's a very, very important city for us. All the studios, all the IP owners are in here. Some of the best-in-class production companies are based in here. There's truly something in this city, right? I don't want to say there is a hub, but somehow we could say that. So, yeah, LA, it's so important for us. There's so many partners here that we've already worked with them. And it's definitely a city where most of our big experiences are opening doors. So yeah, LA is super important for us.
You've got Stranger Things out here right now. This is just opening. AC Ducey is running at the moment. Anything else in the holiday season people should be looking forward to? Or like, are we done opening for this season, or is there more?
Yeah, we're never done. So
no, you're never.
We're never done. We're rock and roll. What I could say to the people is that they should check, I'm not going to say on a daily basis because probably they're not as freak as I am, but they should regularly check the Fever app because there's always something new in the platform coming, or something new coming to town that we're bringing from any other place. And for sure, for this holiday season where we've got Astra Lumina here in LA, there are special candlelight editions with Nutcracker or Christmas editions and things like that. And there are many more things coming. I cannot tell you more because otherwise I would be messing up with the marketing campaign. But but there are more things coming for sure, and all of them will be really, really exciting.
Thanks. Before we get on to the next segment, I just want to pause and say Astra Lumina is really, really lovely. It was totally worth the time it took to drive down to Palos Verdes from the heart of Los Angeles for the walk. Tickets are running at as little as $29 for adults right now. It's like $33 on the weekends. And that price point feels really great, actually, right now. Particularly for this standalone experience from a team who's worked on projects, like we mentioned, like the Tom Bradley Terminal at LAX, which is itself spectacular, and the projection mapping shows at Hogwarts for Universal, which, again, spectacular. But there's really something special about this Lumina Night Walk. And it's the kind of thing that even when you look at the pictures and the videos, you get that vibe of like, this feels like it's something more. And let me tell you, it delivered on it. I was really just tickled pink. Well, actually purple laser, but tickled purple laser by it. Just brings out a sense of childlike wonderment And I hope that we get more here in the LA area, or that, I win the lotto and I get to travel around the world and check out all these different night walks that they've done. Hey, if you go, tag us in your stories if that's a thing you do, and we'll blast them into orbit. I love sharing from this one. It's a really special one. All right. When we come back, Andy Barnes of the Immersive Experience Network in London. Joining us now is Andy Barnes of the Immersive Experience Network in London. Andy and I have talked a few times behind the scenes. We're going to talk and tell everyone what the network is up to, what they've been doing, and what their future holds. Andy, thanks for joining us on the show this week.
Well, thanks for having us. It's an absolute pleasure, and great to, after spending so many times listening to you talking to all these really interesting people, have the chance to sort of stick our oar in and come and say hello.
Well, and y'all have put together some interesting people yourselves. You're working with a number of folks over there as part of the network. For those who aren't initiated into it, give us the 50,000 foot. Give us the elevator pitch on what the network is and what the goals are.
Sure. So the Immersive Experience Network is one of these sort of post-COVID kind of things that got born out of a group of people trying to look at how we can basically grow out of such the trauma of COVID and make things better and try and support the growth of what we're doing around us. And so me and some 3 other co-founders, Sheena Patel, Owen Kingston and Joanna Bucknell, came together, kind of realizing that we'd all been having similar sort of thoughts, and started to put together this plan for, well, how can we create a collaborative community of immersive experience creators that can sort of support each other and collectively try and create opportunities for the whole sector to grow. And we had this sort of, slightly sort of optimistic vision that we would go further together than we would all be individually, because we sort of see, especially in London, which is such a hotbed of incredible sort of immersive experience stuff being curated. It's like there's always little silos of amazing things going on, but actually a lot of that knowledge and a lot of those people were sort of just working independently, and we sort of thought, actually, there is a community here that we can, if we come together, we can absolutely create much more opportunities and bigger audiences as well for what we're doing. So we sort of came together around that sort of principle and sort of started to dig into it a bit more and try and work out how to solve some of those problems. So we've got a whole bunch of plans that we're doing to happen next year, based around sort of 3 core sort of things that we're trying to solve, really. So the first thing is creating a network for curators and trying to create spaces for them to meet each other and sort of forge new collaborations, and this that sort of get out of the problem where you're always using the same people just because you know them, and try and sort of create opportunities for people to sort of come into the sector and find those opportunities to finding people to work with. We're trying to do a lot of education work and a lot of knowledge sharing so that people who have done the work can share how they do it, and we can start to build some best practice and sort of start to build that sort of environment where if you are a new curator coming into the space, there are ways for you to learn about how to do it and learn by other people's mistakes, which we feel is a sort of a core principle. And the final thing we're really keen to do is try and really lean into the research side of things and try and create some more commercial data on what we're doing in the UK immersive sector. And a lot of this, actually, is born out of your work with Question Reality on the industry reports. We've sort of taken that as a massive sort of benchmark for sort of a data-driven approach. So we're trying to sort of use the same principles to quantify the size of the immersive sector in the UK, just so that when we can start having conversations with people about things like funding and investment, we can really sort of demonstrate the opportunity that there is here. And because we have a feeling that the immersive sector in the UK is potentially the fastest growing creative sector in the country. And certainly in terms of audiences and the diversity of audiences and, how much those audiences are engaged in other culture, we could potentially be bigger than, like theatre or dance when you combine all the genres together.
Depending which lens you take to what is immersive and what's in, like, because it cuts across a couple of different disciplines, it can be quite large. And yeah, the work that Sarah Elgar and Ricky Briganti of Pseudonym have done on the past couple of industry reports it always comes up with folks, and people are always looking for more and wanting more data. And Maker knows I wish we had the funding to pay in to get more data through. It's probably something we should do a raise around ourselves. But also Ricky and Sarah only have so much time, and I know they're working on a large project of their own. So there is this need there. The number one thing people are always reaching out to me about is trying to figure out, what's the new numbers, what do things have scaled, and I'm really glad you guys are doing this in London, because it is the capital for this work, globally. Like, there's more shows, more events, more experiences per capita in London that have real ambition behind them than anywhere else, than New York, probably than New York and LA combined. And those are sort of the next two. And then Shanghai after that. Right. So where you all go and what you all do as a collective, aggregate creative community sort of sets the limits of the imagination for everybody else in a real way. But you were mentioning you have the three pillars of what you're going, and the research is a big part of that, and putting the network together. But what else is in the deck here?
Well, what was, so as part of the network side of things, we did a journey on this one because we've been trying to work out how the best way to essentially create spaces for people to properly collaborate and to properly sort of find each other. So we did an Immersive Creators Summit in May, which was super fun. We had about 150 different immersive creators in a room together. And we sort of did a day talking about debating things like the future of immersive, how to find your venues, how to convert venues, and started talking a little bit about the future and what we thought that some of the different forms of immersive might be coming through. And that was super fun, and I think we all got a lot out of it. But now the question was, well, what happens next? And we've been looking at trying to do, we started off thinking about, do we do a really big conference next year? And we did a 1-day thing in London. Is it a 2-day thing now? Is it bigger? But actually we decided against that because we felt that actually the cost of doing that was going to potentially put barriers up for quite a few people to sort of be able to come to it. So instead, we're really digging into the grassroots community side of things and trying to create small immersive creator huddles that we're going to be holding in London over the next year or so. We're going to try and do them at least once or twice a month and sort of deep dive into some of these sort of education knowledge sharing things which you don't find in mainstream channels. So our first one's going to be about writing for immersive and sort of, how do you write for immersive, and actually, do you write it at all? Is it just, can you script? Are you just creating rules around what people are doing, or can you actually genuinely sort of start to write sort of scripting in a sort of detailed way? We've got a great guy called Rob Morgan who was a game designer and writer in VR and has now moved into doing more live immersive work. And he's going to lead a lot of that stuff, and it's going to be super interesting, super fun. But the most important thing for us is that we just get the people in the same room and get them sort of sitting next to each other, kind of going, this is how I approach it. What do you do?
That's always one of the great also joys of this as a creative community. But pre-pandemic, we had a fairly regular kind of gathering in Los Angeles of the creative community, and we're, some of that's starting to come back. There's an event here in LA called Imaginaire Duels that Brett Jackson of the Themed Entertainment Association is doing. It's aimed a little bit more at the themed entertainment world folks, but it's also crossover into ours. And that's done as sort of like a creative play together thing. I know we're looking at getting some quarterly meetings going back up, but also having just come off the Denver event, just pulling everyone together, getting everyone talking, um, creating the space for the sparks to fly. And there's always this sort of balance between just bringing everybody into the room, but also at times focusing, everyone on which problem can we solve? Because we do face a lot of problems as a creative community. Just and the pandemic hasn't made them any easier, but miraculously the demand for the work seems to have only grown, as evidenced by just you looking at something like the way Fever's been funded and how many experiences they're putting money behind and popping up all over the world at this point. That's kind of an undeniable metric, but at the same time making sure that it's not just the marketplace defining. It's this kind of weird balance between like, oh, there's the business side of this, there's the creative side of this, there's the cultural impact side of this, like who's at the table, and trying to navigate these waters can be difficult.
I think so, and it's one of the things I love about the community that we've been involved with is that it's a very broad community creating this work at the moment, and it's and we sort of have it in a couple of different ways. I mean, one of the things we really liked about the event we did is, in May, is that we had a genuine representation from nearly everyone within the sort of different immersive genres. And I keep referring to these now because these we've taken from the immersive industry reports sort of the different sort of subgenres of immersive. And again, forgive me if the terminology is it's not quite right, but the things like experiential arts, scare attractions, immersive theatre. We sort of take those as our sort of subgenres. And one of the nice things about having a May is that we had people from all these different sort of subgenres of immersive in the same room, and it was even that was quite unique. We had an amazing talk from someone who does a lot of LARP experiences, which almost no one in the room had been to before, and some of them didn't even know they existed. But it was such a sort of like, oh wow, that's there's some elements of what he does which is so relevant to what I do, and I can there's so much to learn from each other, if that makes sense. And what really excites me is the idea that what happens when you put all these creatives together and they start to sort of form new things. What happens when the immersive audio artist or designer starts making scare attractions with someone because they met having a pint after one of our sessions, and then it all kicked off from there. But the other sort of, if that's like a left to right sort of thing, the sort of the top to bottom range also is that we have everyone from arts funded artists right through to your sort of commercial producers who are sort of there creating attractions which are designed to rinse and repeat around the world and sort of earn lots of money. And we had this one moment in one of our sort of smaller groups where we were talking about how do you gauge the quality of a piece of work, and someone piped up with a much more of a commercial background and said, well, you can always tell the quality because the market will tell you. The market decides, and you could just hear this sort of intake of breath from the arts funded sort of corner, kind of going, the horror of it. In terms of, no, we create these experiences for the art of it, and for the quality of the experience, not the ticket money. But there are things that you can still learn from each other. There's art has to be sustainable in some sort of fashion, and equally, commerce is commerce, but good art can also be commercially viable and commercially profitable. So it's we have a lot, I think, to learn from each other, and a lot sort of to discover by sort of blending people who would not necessarily normally be in the same room together, and debating stuff out.
There's a couple of doors I'd want to walk through, but I'm gonna hold off at the moment. Like there's some big philosophical questions in there about how we measure and value the work, and what does that mean, and that was some stuff that we before the pandemic we were very consciously gearing up to have that conversation, and I think probably we're going to put that back on the table. And here I am walking to the door, right? Because I sort of posit that from the outside, the market decides, and the quality of the work, they're in less conflict than you might think. I just want to pause this to everybody, because what we're talking about is like different ways of measuring the impact and the reach, and there's some interesting things and structures and systems that can be put into place to sort of measure the impact, measure the reach, measure uh, how a work is affecting folks. And the market side of it is just like, well, the raw number of tickets. How many tickets have you sold? How many eyeballs have been on this thing? How many impressions have you got? And to ignore that part of the formula also, limits people when it comes to, what is the impact, right? There's broad and there's deep, and there's different ways to measure, but there's nuances to that conversation that usually don't get fleshed out, in large part, I think, because the folks who are ars gratis artia, and the folks who are cash uber alles, aren't often sitting in the room together, seeing the overlap, or seeing how these sort of principles can reinforce each other.
Yeah,
And that's part of the fun of this space of bringing these different disciplines together.
it is, and I think this is an interesting cultural question as well, because we were just saying before we started, sort of, I've lived in the States for a few years, and I do think there is a cultural difference between the US, which is very commercially minded, and well, certainly the UK, so where I've sort of lived and grown up, where there is let's say, a slightly decreasing sort of public funded art sector, but there's a whole stream of public funding for art for the good of society, and for the and that funding is sort of targeted specifically, especially now, at targeting sort of art forms that would not necessarily be commercially viable, or art for audiences that would not necessarily get access to it otherwise. And that's a hugely important, I think, well, philosophically, as from a society point of view, that it's hugely important. But interestingly, that's actually something, that's a funding stream which the immersive sector actually struggles to get hold of sometimes, because we don't fit into traditional labels of pots of funding, if that makes sense. And there's loads of immersive theatre makers over here who have had a real struggle convincing people that what they do is theatre. And we have conversations with people who make these incredibly in-depth and deep sort of plot-driven escape rooms, but there's no support for them, because they're not they're not theatre, they're not dance, they're not art, and so therefore it's not necessarily sort of it's trying to work out how to work with those guys to prove the cultural worth of what they're doing. It's something else that we hope that by pulling together some of the data around this, because this is interesting. Little side note with immersive audiences is that there's a big focus in the UK at the moment with arts funding and trying to get audiences into culture who would not normally be part of culture. So theatres, for example, is a big drive of kind of going, look, the majority of your audiences are older white demographic, and you really need to get sort of out get new audiences in. And there was an immersive theatre show, one of the big producers that took a theatre up to a place called Hull, and ran The Great Gatsby in their basement of their theatre. And the theatre to this day, I think, still says it was the best piece of outreach they'd ever done, because I think half the audience who came to that show had never been to the theatre before, ever. And then another big chunk of people underneath that had never been to that's it. About 50% of the audience had never been to that theatre, but then the big chunk of that portion had never been to a theatre at all ever before. But anyone who's seen The Great Gatsby knows it's a great, it's a great production. It's a great theatre piece. So it's a very accessible sort of gateway drug to get people into theatre if you can find the right production.
And that's the thing that's always excited me about, as a theater kid, about what immersive does for theater as theater, is opening up those new audiences, showing people that the art form, is beyond what they think it is, and particularly that the art form can do things that television and film can't, which I think is hugely important in an era when cinematic quality material is constantly being fed to us on a drip feed or just dumped into our laps every week, at a ridiculously high production value. And some of that's going to change, as the macroeconomic conditions change, but not all. It's not going away, and it's all dripped into people's feeds for less than $20 a month. If all you do is get one of these services, and you can eat well, even if that's all you have, and there has to be a fundamentally different proposition for getting someone to leave their house and engage with other people. And the thing about immersive is just helping people rediscover the special qualities of liveness, the unique qualities of being in a designed space with each other, in order to collectively experience something. We're waxing philosophic, as we are wont to do on the show. There's a couple of things I want to tick down here. One, just what the plan is for, what some of the stuff you have on tap for 2023, since we're here in December. And specifically, I've got a question about what in a lot of the materials you guys talk about immersive huddles. So I'm wondering what are the huddles and what's on tap. You mentioned a little bit about some of the educational stuff you're doing, but maybe break this one down for us.
So I mentioned the writing huddle that we've already got arranged, and we're going to try and do another sort of 3 or 4 of those over the year, bringing people together just to explore different parts of creating immersive work. So it's going to be very much like 4 curators to talk with each other, and knowledge share with each other. And we're fundraising for that and some of the other sort of pieces of work we want to do during the year at the moment on a Indiegogo campaign, which is our seed fund, we're calling it, for next year to help underwrite some of that work. But also in there, we sort of talk a little bit about some of the research work we want to do as well. We've got our eyes on doing a big audience piece of research, try and dig into some of the data around the audiences that we are targeting and what they're into and what they're looking for and where they are. Several partners who have come on board and sort of said we want to get involved in that because they are looking for that data as part of their show development. So that's really interesting. And also we're fundraising to sort of try and start recording these huddles and generating some of this educational content to start creating a bit of an educational library, which we hope to make sort of publicly available online, so that if you are a new curator looking to sort of come into the sector, there is a bit of resource for you to sort of start picking through in terms of trying to learn how to make the work, and as we said, trying to learn from other people's mistakes as well, and sort of so you don't have to make the same ones yourselves.
That is the number one thing that everyone is always looking for, and indeed something that I wish I had more time to help everyone out with, and probably something we'll do some stuff here on the Institute side as well. Andy, I'm so glad. We'll put the Indiegogo in the show notes for certain, but I just want to say I'm so glad you guys are out there doing this. Like, there's a real esprit de corps with what we've been doing out here in LA and in New York, and it's just good to see the community operating qua the community, because it feels like a chance for us to do it right for once.
We can try. We can try.
Yeah. We could. That's turns out Yoda was wrong. There is a try. Nemec teaches us that, but that's another thing. Wink, wink. For everyone who wants to, do check out in the show notes both the Indiegogo and Immersive Experience Network. And I suspect, this is not the only time you're going to hear Andy on the show in the year ahead. So we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you much.
Once again, I want want to thank all our guests this week, Jonathan, Thomas, Isabel, and Andy, for joining us on the show. We didn't talk to any Americans this time. That's awesome. And we talked to people in person. Also awesome. You can tell I love nothing more than getting out there and doing interviews on site and in person, and just excited about that. Speaking of which, something you should all know, thanks to all of your support, we have been able to, even though like I'm still like, paranoid about making ends meet, we've invested a little back into the machine here. We've bought a kit for Shelley in London. So, and now I'm putting Shelley on the spot. Shelley's gonna have some interviews in London. There's a whole bunch of folks we want to talk to. There's a whole bunch of folks we know want to talk to us, doing some stuff in situ there. I've got a couple of ideas that Shelley's excited about tackling for the year ahead in London. And as we know, just London's going to keep on popping off. So very excited that we have that there now. And I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for all of you. Doesn't mean less work for me. It doesn't mean more work either. I think it just means a work swap. So don't think I'm getting off on easy street here. I'm a week out from the last time from my first negative COVID test. I am feeling obviously a lot better because I'm going out. I'm masking like wild though. Also went out and caught Vinny DePonto's Mind Play at the Geffen. A friend had tickets. Siobhan, friend is Siobhan. Siobhan had tickets because she's gotten like season tickets. She's like, "Do you want to go see this play?" Not knowing that I know Vinny, and so that was wonderful to go see Vinny working at the Geffen. If you're here in town, it's great. Also ran into Russ from my haunt life. Haven't seen Russ in a while. He was there because Russ loves magic, so it was great to be able to run into Russ. Again, fantastic show. Just Vinny DePonto does great work. If you didn't know already, and if you didn't, now you do. And we've had him on the show in the podcast in the past, and it's good to catch up with him. And yeah, like there's a part of me that wants to go back to Astra Lumina. It's true. I haven't done too many of the kind of zoo lights, botanical garden light shows. I've liked what I have done so far, but it hasn't necessarily, blown me away. And I went with a friend who's done a few, and they said, "Oh, this is just orders of magnitude, above like what some of that stuff is," and it reminded her a lot more of going to Burning Man. The caliber of the installation pieces there. You can see some of that on our Instagram feed. I put a video and some pictures up. I also didn't take some videos of some of my favorite bits, and I held back some video because I think that it's something you should really experience for yourself. There's just some spectacular moments there in Astra Lumina. That's it for now. Check it out. Our next couple of episodes, they're going to be team-centered. Next week, towards the end of the week, we're going to be releasing our critics picks, our best moments and our best experiences, shows, events of 2022. The team is getting those into me now on their deadlines. Clickety, clickety, clackety. I'll be writing mine over the weekend. Clickety, clackety. But we're also talking to team members. So there's going to be some individual segments. I've already recorded one with Nicholas and one with Shelley. I've got some more coming up over the next week, hoping to get everybody in. And we'll have this like nice meaty episode about everyone's moments and experiences. That'll be next week. And then the following week, we're going to have our traditional kind of look back at the year. So the senior team's going to get together. We're going to talk about just, the year that was in 2022. Those are the last two episodes of the year. We're taking the last week off. So no podcast over the week between Christmas and New Year's. Sometimes we've done like look ahead shows, but I just need to give everyone a break. As we all know, everybody everybody but me is a volunteer, and I make what's essentially a part-time salary doing full-time work. So we need time off is what we need more than anything. And my last bit of time off, which was called Thanksgiving, was stolen by COVID. So I really need time off. And I appreciate all of you for funding us and letting us do this at a sane human pace. Anything else you should know about? Oh, yeah. Just a major piece of news I forgot to tell everybody at the beginning because, I was all worked up about getting all the Telelibrary stuff and the framework. We've announced the dates for the next stage, 2023. We've announced the dates and the venue. We are going to be here in Los Angeles at Arizona State University's California campus in the historic Herald Examiner building. I'm going off my memory and not my notes right now. We have a wonderful partner in the form of ASU who are co-presenting the 2023 Next Stage Summit. The dates are going to be June. Okay, now I need to look at the notes. See, again, look at me like not preparing for in some ways, the most important news we can have for 2023. And I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just a thing that we're doing. Whatever's directly in front of me, that's the most important thing at the moment. Welcome to my brain. All right, so here we go. Yes, the dates are June 2nd through 4th. I knew that I just didn't want to get screwed up. At Arizona State University's California Center in the historic Herald Examiner building here in downtown LA. The 2023 edition will be co-presented by the Immersive Experience Institute, that's us, and Arizona State University's Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, whose hub in LA is at ASU's California Center. The building, I want to wax poetic about the building for a second. This building, the Herald Examiner building, the Herald Examiner was Hearst's newspaper in Los Angeles. And so like the main event space is actually where the printing press was once upon a time. So when you're holding an event, you're there in the printing press area. It's good. The press is long since gone, but like you're there. The building itself was designed by Julia Morgan, and it was the building she did right before Hearst decided to hire her for San Simeon for Hearst Castle. And the lobby of this building is just amazing. So it's a Julia Morgan building. It's got this amazing lobby. It's got a whole bunch of classrooms. It's got it's a cutting edge, brand new media center from ASU, who are just making lots and lots of inroads, and they've been incredible partners so far, and look to be an incredible partner going forward. So we're just really excited about doing this, and we've got some plans that are stirring, and like the team's been talking about what we want to do and how we want to make it different and how we want to keep on making it better and changing things up. And I'm excited for what is going to come about in this event, in this collaboration. And, as you all know, that we finally get to do the thing. I joked at one point, this is the third inaugural. I swear to God, if something if nothing short of a nuclear attack, knock on wood that we don't have a nuclear attack, we're getting this one through. And coming off of Denver, just supercharged by having everyone back together again and getting to be part of the team doing that, and now just getting to press forward. So there you go. We announced the dates. That's how busy of a week it's been. I forgot the big thing we announced, which was that June 2nd through 4th. There'll be more information about programming, about tickets, all that good stuff. That's going to be coming in the new year. We'll have like a rolling series of announcements as we set all that into motion and lock a few things down. But just about 6 months from now is when we get back into the groove. All right, let's wrap this up. The associate producer of this podcast is Parker Sella. Music for No Proscenium is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society and the award-winning Solar the Podcast. Chris has done very well for himself with Solar. You should check it out. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro and for taking me to see Vinny DePonto last night. The No Pro Podcast is written, edited, hosted, produced, and mixed by yours truly. I'm Noah Nelson, and until next time, I'll see you at the show.